you everything you need to fight the Trump administration. This is The Bill Press Show, live at youtube.com/The Bill Press Show.
All right, and a happy Memorial Day. Yes, indeed. A special broadcast here for Memorial Day and joining all of you on this great day. And don't forget what it is all about. Take time out. In addition to all the picnics and the barbecues and the ball games and all that kind of fun, but take time out to honor those who serve today and who have served our country in uniform for Memorial Day 2018. We have a very special guest here for our beginning of our Memorial Day broadcast. I started to say podcast. It's podcast and broadcast. Igor Volsky from the Center for American Progress Action Fund, frequent guest on the show and frequent guest in the big chair here. Hello, Igor.
Hey, Bill. How you doing? Good to be here.
Happy holiday.
Happy holiday to you.
You're
as
dressed
well.
for the holiday. Yeah.
I am. You know,
It's like,
nice out. I thought I'd come in a little relaxed.
This is like home rule, right? Meaning the shirt. Explain the shirt. The people may not understand.
No, so there's a series of shirts, and it says my shirt. It has the outline of D.C. and then the word home inside of it. And you can get this for any state you'd like. So this isn't home rule. This is just an indication that to you, the place that you're wearing is home.
Oh,
so you can get Delaware for you, for instance.
Yeah, California. I mean, it
California.
started in Delaware, but today, California.
Well, I haven't read the book yet, Bill. I would have known that if I would have gotten it sooner.
You haven't read.
I'm making a.
You haven't read From the Left, a life in the crossfire.
Any opportunity, I love it.
Okay, see, like Igor, if you don't have one, BillPressShow.com. That's where you find it. Anyhow, it's good to see you today.
Good to
on
be
a
here.
serious topic, you've been doing such great work on the issue of gun safety at the Center for American Progress. So we have the latest that I know of: Santa Fe, Texas, 9 students killed, 1 teacher killed, 17-year-old student with a revolver and a sawed-off shotgun. And unlike after Parkland, Florida, no movement there on the part of the parents or the kids to do anything about gun safety. Why not?
Well, let me say a couple of things,
Or maybe,
Bill.
or am I wrong?
Look, I think what's happening here and across the United States is a real awakening to the consequences of gun violence and to the consequences of allowing the NRA to hijack the conversation about gun safety for decades. And the consequence is 100 gun deaths every single day in the United States and mass shootings like the one we saw last week in Texas that are more frequent than ever, right? And so seeing all of that, I started an organization called GunsDown America with the goal of setting out a bold new objective for the gun movement. And that objective is moving us towards a world with fewer guns. Because until we tackle the problem of having, 310 million guns in circulation, that's more guns than people, and 2, the fact that those guns are so easy to get, both new guns and the guns in circulation, we're never going to solve this. So it's time to get serious. And then how do you do that, right? You do that by weakening the NRA in every single way. So going after the corporate relationships that they have, going after them directly, shaming the lawmakers who take their money and then do nothing. And then I think you really start thinking about policies that make guns scarce and start to claw back some of those millions and millions and millions of guns that are out there.
But why is it just because it's Texas? Why wasn't there more local outrage, in Santa Fe? It looked like the people there just sort of said, well, this is the way it is these days, almost the new normal.
There is a level of resignation of this is what we are to expect in a nation where there are so many guns, right? So people recognize that. I think there's a certain level of, oh, well, what will the government do? Oh, the NRA has spent so much money on these lawmakers. What can we possibly do? And the reality is there's nothing we can do overnight, right? That it's going to take time. But the number one thing you can do is in November, you can vote for lawmakers who aren't NRA rated, right? Who don't take NRA money. So if you want to do something to prevent this, that's the clearest action you can take. But, we know from all kinds of movements that we've seen in this country, the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement, the LGBT movement, all of this takes time. It takes decades and decades and decades. We have to build a movement that counters the 20 or 30 years that the NRA has invested in trying to convince the American people that guns make them safer.
But you can understand, can't you, why some people say, look, after Sandy Hook, nothing. After Las Vegas, nothing. After Parkland, Florida, nothing. Right? Where people just say, it's hopeless.
Well, let me quibble with you on that. There have been states, and after Parkland, I think you've seen 12 states that have taken action to make guns harder to get. Now, of course, we need a federal change because you can just bring a gun from another state. That's what happens in Chicago, for instance. Most of those guns come from Indiana and other bordering states. So things are happening on the local level. Things are happening on the state level. The question is, as you point out, what's the hope for federal reform? And that's where people have to vote, but B, you also have to have leaders on our side who are organizing people around bold principles that actually get them excited and make them believe that will fix the problem. Now, I love a good background check. I want to see universal background checks. I think the Chris Murphy bill to do background checks that he's introduced in the Senate is stronger than the bill that we had after Newtown. It's a good bill, but it's not going to take us all the way there because we have so many guns in circulation. So what I think would be helpful towards getting us towards federal change is for leaders like Chris Murphy and others to stand up and say, we are establishing a new paradigm for this movement. We are saying what we're prioritizing isn't the gun, which is what the NRA has convinced us is the most important thing, the right to have a gun. What we're prioritizing is the safety of our communities and is the safety of our schools. And the only way we get to that safe place is if we move towards a world with fewer guns. That's the organizing principle we need to say. It's the same thing like in the marriage fight, right? You didn't have people, I mean, you did initially, but towards the end, you didn't have people who were like, all we need is civil unions. Give me a civil union. No, the organizing principle was around marriage and full equality, and I'd like to see that with guns.
Okay, well, I'll quibble back with you.
Go ahead.
Some of these states, have done something. Like Florida, okay? They said you have to be 21 and not 18 to buy an assault rifle. BFD. That doesn't really fix anything. And everybody now praising Rick Scott for passing.
I'm not praising Rick Scott. I agree with you. Of course,
Yeah.
of course, you can just go around that restriction because you can buy that weapon online without any kind of age restrictions, without any kind of background check. Obviously, we need to do more. We need to go further. But it took us a long time to get here, and it took the NRA a lot of money to kind of move public opinion in this direction. You're not going to see a light switch. It's going to be piece by piece by piece. But again, it's all of those pieces leading up to one big, bold goal.
Yeah, I mean, look, and understand, you could not go far enough on gun safety for me, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I love the some of the ideas that have come out, like you've mentioned, the background checks, trigger locks, whatever, right? I'd go all the way to register every single gun in America.
None of these are radical ideas.
No,
like gun registration, you see everywhere else in the world. It was a big point of contention in 1968 when we were having a gun debate then, and it almost became reality. So none of this is really crazy. It's how the rest of the world lives. We're the outlier.
No, exactly. So I just want to be clear. I mean, you I don't care how strong you are. I'm with you. Right?
Thank you, Bill.
But I'm questioning how we get there and how we also wake up the American people that they have to make this a priority.
Yeah, the American people are woken up. I am not concerned about the American people. You look at polling on this; those numbers are high. The challenge we face, I'm getting there. The challenge we face is translating that support that they say to pollsters, right?
Yes.
Into actual political power, into actual organizing, and into actual voting.
Right.
And that is a process that as you start to stand up the infrastructure to build a movement around a bold idea that excites people, that gets them energized, and you lay out a clear strategy for getting towards that idea, you'll start to see people buying in, people joining, and all of us together moving towards this. And one other thing I'll say to you is, you remember during the fight for marriage equality that there, at one point in the mid-2000s, was a tipping point where a lot of Americans who hadn't thought about those issues knew people in their family, knew friends, knew neighbors who were gay and lesbian, and eventually opinion changed and people thought, my goodness, they should be allowed to marry. We're reaching a place in this country where the number of mass shootings, the number of everyday gun violence, you now have Americans tell pollsters that they know somebody who's been impacted by gun violence. And that number will continue to grow because it will continue to get worse before it gets better. And not only that, not only do people know family and friends and community members who've been impacted by gun violence, which is shifting their opinion, but they can see themselves being impacted by it as well. They could be impacted. Their children could be impacted. That's why you can't, there's a wave coming. You can't unfurl that. You can't pull that back no matter how much the NRA tries. And the fact that you now have young people waking up in this country to the horrors of gun violence, they do drills in schools about this. Now it's coming to their schools for real. That's a real generational change where young people in this country, A, don't have the same kind of reverence for guns as older people do, and B, they recognize the NRA for what it is, which is a lobby that is helping the gun industry sell more guns and not someone who's concerned about civil rights or constitutional rights or anything like that.
All of that's true, but I would argue that until it gets to the point where a politician doesn't dare take NRA money because they know they're going to lose their seat if they do, or doesn't dare oppose reasonable gun safety measures because they know they're going to lose their seat if they do. They're not there. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
A long way from there. But so even again, after Sandy Hook and after Parkland and after Las Vegas, if that doesn't do it, what is it going to take?
I mean, Bill,
what is it going to take?
I can't tell you what it's going to take, but I can tell you where the trend lines are going. I think what it's going to take is, frankly, a lot of work on all of our parts in organizing around this issue. That it's definitely going to take. But what gives me hope in this is, A, the trend lines, but B, when I step back and I look at
what are the trend lines?
Oh, the trend lines of young people being on the right side of this issue, of the number of gun owners in America shrinking, of hunting, in a couple of decades won't even be a thing for all kinds of different reasons. So there's
won't be any animals left.
Well, Trump has his way.
I know.
This reverence that past generations may have had for the gun, I think, is fading. I think the relationship and the cultural significance of firearms is beginning to diminish. And so all of those trend lines are undeniable. And also, the fact that mass shootings are getting worse. Daily gun violence continues to go up. All of that, I think, is gonna hit a point of change, but it's gonna take time. And the civil rights movement took decades, right, to lay the groundwork. To have actual...
But you must admit, too, while some states have done many little protections, other states are going in the opposite direction at the same time, allowing more open carry in more places. Right?
Yes, and those states will see higher levels of gun violence. There's no doubt about that.
More guns in circulation.
Yeah.
So if you had your druthers today, right? I mean, and you could say, okay, here are the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that the Congress could do or a state legislature could do.
Yeah.
That is going to make us safer.
Yeah. Okay, you
mentioned background checks, which I think we all agree. But what do you think of the 3 or 4 top priorities.
So I think a federal license to carry a firearm. If you need a license to carry a gun, you need to. I'm sorry. If you need a license to drive a car, you need a license to carry a gun.
Yeah.
Right. Number one.
Absolutely.
So a federal license. Number two, required training for firearm ownership. So you need to prove to me on some kind of semi-annual basis that you know how to shoot the firearm that you have and that you are licensed to have. And of course, the license would come with a complete background check, as you'd imagine.
And you can follow the analogy of the car.
Exactly.
You need a license for the car. You
Exactly.
have to learn how to use it.
Yeah, learn how to use it.
You
Precisely.
took a course.
I took a 2-day course out in Las Vegas at a huge shooting range. This was back in 2016. It was one of the most intense thing I've done. I did it in these red shoes, by the way, which I don't know why I did that, but it got a lot of looks from my fellow classmates. It was very hard. I don't know if I picked up a gun now that I would remember how to use it, which only reinforces to me the fact that we got to have these certifications and these trainings on a daily basis, not a daily, but on a frequent basis. So licensing, training, obviously you'd want to ban all assault weapons. And then the other piece of this, Bill, and this is where it gets
background checks?
Well, background checks would go with the licensing.
Oh, okay.
But this is where you have to be careful because you don't want to over-criminalize this problem because we've seen what that does. That only funnels folks into the criminal justice system in very unfair, unjust, and racist ways and adds to the incarceration problem we have in this country. And so there has to be a piece of this that goes after the gun manufacturers in a real way. Right now they're producing products that are unregulated, that goes after gun sellers in a very serious way. Right now, a gun is stolen in this country every 2 minutes because there are really no real standards that are enforceable for locking up those guns at gun stores. So I would spend a lot of time thinking about the top of the food chain when it comes to firearms. And then finally, in terms of the existing guns, the 310 million guns in circulation, I would start thinking through incentive packages and gun buyback programs that will start to claw back some of the guns and help help usher us towards a future with fewer guns.
They've worked in some other countries.
Well, they've worked depending on how they're structured, right? So you have to have financing. In some other countries, you're probably thinking of Australia.
Yeah.
Those buybacks were mandatory. Here, that would be a harder law to pass. But I think that depending on how you structure these programs, that you and depending on how attractive you make these programs to people, that you can get a significant number of guns off the street. We're now running a campaign. I should mention through GunsDown against Bank of America. That has just recently news broke that they were bailing out Remington Arms. In fact, bailed out Remington Arms, which is the company that manufactured the Sandy Hook assault weapon, and is also the company that manufactured the shotgun in the Santa Fe shooting last week. Bank of America gave Remington Arms $42 million to help that company restructure its books and get out of bankruptcy. And when I called Bank of America and said, what are you guys doing? Why would you do that? They said, well, after Parkland, we promised not to do business with assault weapon makers, but this was a deal that was on the books. We couldn't get out of it. This is going to be the last such deal. I said, I don't care. You have given Remington Arms $42 million. Remington Arms will go on to make assault weapons. Those assault weapons and revolvers and shotguns, etc., will go on and kill more people. Your financing will result in the death of more people. What are you going to do about that, Bank of America?
I mean, the whole financial thing, I think, is the people haven't explored the possibilities there.
Yeah.
Also in terms of, I remember the big campaign to boycott companies that were doing business with South Africa.
Yeah.
Part of the apartheid movement.
Yep.
If you could do that for people who are investing either through the mutual fund or whatever, in gun companies, gun manufacturing
Yes.
companies.
And this is what I
get
mean
at
when I
that
say
and
go after the
cut
big
off the supply of money.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I mean when I say go after the big boys and not
Yeah.
not the actual gun users, so you don't run into the problem of overcriminalizing the problem.
Can someone sue today a gun manufacturer?
Yes, and they have. Victim families have sued gun manufacturers. Those lawsuits have been challenging given the 2006 law that shields them from those kinds of suits in most cases.
Right. Want to be sure we get this in.
That's the thing that Bernie Sanders voted for, actually.
People want to join GunsDown.
Oh, yes. Go to gunsdownamerica.org.
That's right.
Gunsdownamerica.org. You can learn all about our campaign against Bank of America. By the way, Bill, we are circulating a billboard truck around their headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina right now.
Wait, whose headquarters?
Bank of America's headquarters.
Oh, Bank of America.
Yes, yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I thought you were talking NRA again because I was going to say I thought they were down on Route 66 here.
They are. They're in a very big building.
Right.
So, but please join gunsdownamerica.org. Learn about all of our campaigns. Learn about our mission. Again, this isn't just about solving a piece of the problem or thinking about in the realm of, what is possible. This is about where we need to go and building a real movement to get there.
Right. And their Bank of America is everywhere, right? I mean, you don't have to go to Charlottesville to protest Bank of America.
No, you do not.
You can let them know. That's one of the reasons I don't bank at Bank of America.
There you go.
One of the reasons I'm glad I don't bank at Bank of America. Who do you see today, other than yourself, of course? But one of the things that I find lacking is the leadership on this issue. You mentioned leadership a little earlier, I remember the day when nothing would happen bad about any school shooting or a mall shooting or whatever. Chuck Schumer would be right out there saying, we got to do something on this, right? I haven't heard Chuck Schumer talk about gun safety for I don't know how long. Even Dianne Feinstein, who was the one who authored the assault weapons ban. I don't hear her out there that much anymore. It seems to me that even the Democrats in Congress have kind of backed away from this issue.
Well,
do you sense that lack of leadership or urgency?
Look, I always want lawmakers to do more on this issue. I always want lawmakers.
Chris Murphy, you mentioned, is really
and to set out big, bold objectives, not just the background check bill I have, but what is the future that you see, right? To me, it's a future with fewer guns. I think Chris agrees, but he just needs to say that more. But to me, Bill, the real leaders
It's got to be a priority.
It's got to be a priority. The real leaders, to me, are out there in the country, are the young people all across this country, in Parkland and elsewhere, who are registering people to vote, who are educating themselves and their communities about the horrors of all of this, and who are having very real conversations about what their generation can do to solve this problem in the way that past generations haven't been able to do. And so that's where you're going to see the change, I think, is from those communities saying we are fed up with the deaths that we're seeing, with burying our children, and lawmakers who continue to take money from an organization that only cares about its preserving itself and its power, the NRA. They're not going to represent us anymore.
You got to watch out for the NRA because Ollie North is in charge now.
Yeah, the convicted felon and weapons seller and drug smuggler Ollie North
really adds up to the perfect person for the NRA,
is
doesn't it?
the new NRA spokesperson. It's quite remarkable indeed.
But you know, the support is there. I'm just think back at the March for Our Lives movement, or the big rally here in Washington, the protest. It was incredible, and similar protests all over the country.
That's right, and you saw on the back
people
end,
turned out. It was incredible.
Yeah, and on the back end of that, we have seen voter registration rates for young people increase in the aftermath of that, and we, of course, need to sustain that all the way through November and all the way through 2020.
Right, and this year, 2018, is the opportunity, I think, to challenge everybody running for Congress, state legislature, city council, Congress, U.S. Senate, right? Not to vote until you know where they stand on gun safety issues.
Yeah, it is. See, we have the power here, right?
I hate single-purpose kind of politics, but in this case, I'm willing to make this a single-purpose issue.
What greater purpose is there than the lives of our children? You may disagree with a lawmaker on his stance on a whole host of different things, and those things are not insignificant, but the core of what your elected member should care about is the lives of their constituents rather than the political donations they're going to get from a gun lobby. And the people who have that equation backwards, which is most members of we know what party, they don't deserve to be there anymore.
Right. No, this is the time. This is the time where people can really make a difference, and we could really turn the corner.
Yeah.
And God hope that we do. As a father and a grandfather, to see the killing fields in this country become elementary schools and high schools, it's just something that we cannot tolerate.
People blame, and we saw after this shooting, everything but the gun for this happening. Doors, video games, teachers not having guns,
Roe v.
mental
Wade,
health,
Roe v. Wade, the fact that people,
Ritalin, you name it. What all of these shootings have in common is gun and easy access to the gun, and that's what we need to change.
All right. Igor Volsky, you're doing a great job, great leadership, as particularly on this issue, but a lot of other issues for a long time. The organization is GunsDown. It's GunsDown. GunsDownAmerica.org. I put the S in the wrong place. GunsDownAmerica.org. Thanks, Igor. Keep up the good fight. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you, Bill. You as well.
All right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I hope you're enjoying the day, and we've got lots of good plans. Relax, picnic, barbecue, baseball, whatever. Don't forget to take time out and remember what Memorial Day is all about, and say a word of thanks to those who are serving our country throughout the world in uniform today and have done so in the past, making America great again, or keeping America great again, or strong again, as someone might say. On this Memorial Day special edition, we are proud to welcome back to the studio our good friend from HuffPo. I still call it Huffington Post once in a while.
It's all right.
It's Travis Waldron. Hello, Travis. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you?
All right. I'm doing great. Thank you. This issue, we still think of you somewhat as a sports reporter.
Still, well, as long as the national anthem is an issue, I'm a sports reporter.
And it's still an issue, right? It's come more and more and more. In fact, Donald Trump the other day said something just the end of last week about what should happen to these NFL players if they don't stand for he's still on this case. It would not be an issue if he had not made it an issue, really.
Well, it would be a little bit of one.
A little bit of one because of Colin Kaepernick, right? Yeah, who still doesn't
but
have
he's
a job.
the one driving.
But Donald Trump's driving it and made it a huge issue.
It's the reason it hasn't gone away for 2 years now.
And right, and he still won't let go of it. Here he is most recently.
You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
Yeah, maybe not even in the country.
Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
Yeah, right.
That's America, right?
So what
if you disagree, if you protest in America these days,
yeah, if you protest,
time to go.
Protest anything, you gotta leave
go.
the country. So he said that in response to what the owners put forth which is that if you are on the team and you're there at the game on the field, you must stand or else. Why and what do they mean by that?
Well, this highlights the stupidity of this NFL thing. That the owners did this is that it's still not good enough for him.
Yeah.
We've seen over and over again now that if you give Trump an inch, he wants a mile.
Right. And if you cave into him a little bit, that's still not
they're
enough.
being cowards and they're being fools, and they thought that they were going to appease him or appease these people who frankly just want something to be mad about and who oppose the very idea of a black man using his platform and using his voice.
And
it's not going to work. It's not going to make Trump happy. He's using this. This is his culture war. This is Donald Trump goosing his base by pointing at the black man and saying, "Look at the problem."
Right.
He's been doing this for years. America has a long history of this, of not just with black people, but with black athletes, of white politicians and white people looking at black athletes who protest, who use their voice, who do whatever, and say, that's the problem.
And as a lot of people have pointed out, they say like, oh, there's a right way to protest. You shouldn't be, inciting violence or participating in violence. There's a right way to do it. It's
no, white way.
Yeah. The white way to do it. Yes, exactly. That's a better way to put it, Bill.
Yeah,
right. And so now they are doing it the quote unquote right way, and doing it silently.
Right, and that's what they mean by right way. The right way is don't talk. Don't do anything. Don't let me be.
Yeah.
Let me have my football and not think about anything.
Yeah.
Let me have whatever and not think about anything.
Hey, I want to ask you on this.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, like, how much of a price has the NFL had to pay for these protests, right? Like, Donald Trump will go out and say, oh, people aren't watching the NFL as much anymore because of these protests. I haven't watched the NFL in a couple of years, mostly because they had a terrible policy with regards to their players that were beating women.
Right.
And so, like, there are a lot of reasons to not watch the NFL.
Well, this question hits on two things, which is one, it's hard to know how many people aren't watching. NFL ratings were down a little bit last year, but if you actually dig into the numbers and count streaming, it showed that more people watch the NFL. It's sort of the whole ESPN debate, right? Of ESPN got liberal and people started turning it off. It's like, no, not really. The second part is we only talk about the fans. The fans are mad. Well, no, it's a small segment of white fans. We're not. No one ever mentions the black fans or the liberal fans or the whoever fans who might be mad that Colin Kaepernick's not on a team.
Yeah.
That Eric Reed's not on a team. That the NFL has systematically shut these guys down. Like, those fans count too. And you get a real good lens into the view of the NFL on who their fans are because of who they're trying to cater to.
Well, so
and they think, well, the white guy is my fan.
Right.
But the black guy or the black woman or the Hispanic man or woman who might be like, yo, Colin Kaepernick's got a point. And if he's not on a team, I'm not watching.
Yeah. Or buying tickets.
Right. And you look at, like, Colin Kaepernick last year at the beginning of the season was not on a team and his jersey was like in the top 10 of sales.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But those fans don't matter to the NFL. They don't register to the NFL.
So when the owners say that you're going to pay a price if you don't stand, are they going to throw them out of the game? Are they going to fine them? Or what?
They say they're going to fine them. I'd love to see it.
Every single time.
Every single time. I mean, and this goes back to, this is a labor issue, right? Like, this isn't just a racial issue; it's also a labor issue.
Yeah.
The NFL is the same thing that Trump is doing. Trump is exerting his power, right? He's saying he's using his bully pulpit. The NFL is doing the same thing. We have the power to do this. We have the power to tell you to sit down and shut up and play football. If the union and the players don't see that, and specifically the white players, because they're the ones who have less to risk here.
Yeah, sure.
Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, Malcolm Jenkins, these guys who have been pushing this, they can choose their way forward. But if the white players, there have been very few white players who have had their back. And at this point, if you don't say,
it's disgusting.
This is a labor issue now.
Yeah.
They are telling us that we have to shut up. And they're not saying you have to shut up if you want to talk about racial issues. They're saying you have to shut up if you want to talk.
Right. Yeah. I mean, where's the team spirit? Right.
Yeah.
Seriously.
We talk about all this brotherhood and
Yeah.
Well, show it.
Yeah. I mean, and if they think it's sort of like if the owners think that they were going to satisfy Trump by giving in a little bit, if the players think they're going to satisfy their owners by going along with something like this, they're kidding themselves.
Right. They'll never satisfy the owners.
No.
The owners will always want more money. They'll always want more control. Yeah. This is the history of this league and sports leagues in general.
So to your point, HuffPost, it might be your article. I don't know. I just saw the headline on the front page this morning, points out that since Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, 378 Black Americans have been killed by police officers in this country, which is the point he was trying to make in the first place.
This has been like a somewhat recurring series for us. Is just a reminder,
doing the numbers,
right? Like this is what Colin Kaepernick was talking about.
Right.
And
but I mean,
this wasn't about the national anthem. And it's still not actually about the national anthem.
Right.
It's for the NFL, for Donald Trump, for the players. It's not about the national anthem. The national anthem has become the tool of divisiveness in this. Colin Kaepernick wasn't protesting the national anthem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He was using the national anthem to make a point. And his point's a good one, which is that our police are killing a lot of black people. And a lot of people of color. And there's a real problem with racism in this country.
Yeah. And they're doing that's happening, and we're not doing anything about it.
Right.
And what he was trying to say is we have to start taking this seriously.
Right. And the guy who wrote that piece is a coworker of mine. I wrote an earlier version of that piece, and we were going through the numbers yesterday. And it's remarkable that because you have to take the database that the Washington Post has, and you've got to kind of break down the numbers. And you can pick basically like any 365-day period, and the numbers are almost identical.
Really? Yeah.
It doesn't change. It hasn't changed in the 3 years that we've been talking about this now. And, that's what Colin Kaepernick was talking about.
So this just happened in Donald Trump's latest statement. I guess we won't know until we get to the season starts, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
which is, by the way, not that far because they start playing football now in the middle of summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be before Labor Day or right around Labor Day.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I would be shocked if it goes away. And also, I mean, Republicans. It's not just Trump. Republicans are. There was a good piece in Politico last week by Ben Strauss that Republicans are still running on this. They're still pointing at Colin Kaepernick as look at the angry black man to try and gin up conservative votes.
They'll continue to do that.
Oh,
it's really easy to do.
Yeah, and it'll only get worse as the midterms get near.
Yep.
Like this, Colin Kaepernick is. It's unfortunately. It's not going away in the wrong way.
Donald Trump will be running on this in 2020.
100%.
Like, and it would be great, right? If we were talking about Colin Kaepernick in 2020 because we were having a real conversation about what he wanted to talk about, but instead,
right,
it's the complete opposite.
And by the way, in 2020, Colin Kaepernick will still not have a job as an NFL quarterback.
He's never playing in the NFL again.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
And neither is Eric Reed.
No. Right.
Like, Eric Reed is done.
Boy, that's pretty sad. It is, to the extent that Trump has been able to make this, and also the one that like you that I feel just no regard for at all are the owners. They're just such a bunch
they're cowards.
They're
cowards.
It really was amazing to watch last year.
There's not one of them, right? Not one of them.
Well, they all last year. They all no.
There's a couple who want to be.
That's a good way to put it.
That want to stand up and but
there's a couple who want to be.
But the owner of the Jaguars, I think. The owner of the Jaguars, I think,
and the
the
guy from the Eagles,
and the guy from the Eagles. But remember last year, every single one of these owners, including Jerry Jones and all these other goblins came out to take a knee with their players.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Right.
And make a big show of, we support the anthem, but also we feel that this is important, right? And the fact that they got Jerry Jones down on one knee, was amazing.
But that was all. Again,
and less than a year later, now what?
It's all a matter of control. That was their way to co-opt the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you think Jerry Jones gives a damn about police violence? No,
Right.
Jerry
No.
Jones wants these guys to go out and play football and keep printing money for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and this is like, and the thing is, this is a league that's built on majority black labor to make a gang of white dudes a whole lot of money.
I know that is.
It shouldn't be shocking that this is the way this is played out, right?
Yeah.
But like at the same time, these guys are cowards,
right?
And they're fools. Like they think they're gonna you're gonna appease Donald Trump. It almost makes you think that they like this.
Remember,
as much as they say they don't.
Yeah. How much of this goes back to when he owned a team and he tried to get?
Well, he wanted to own a team.
I thought he had a team.
He owned
and
a
wanted to
USFL
get.
He owned a USFL team.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and he sued the NFL.
Right.
Oh, they
and
hate him.
And he tried to get in the NFL.
Yeah, he
and they
tried to
wouldn't
buy the Bills.
They wouldn't let him in because he was.
Yeah, they
right?
hate him.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We talked about this a little bit last week where, there was this great idea where they had a football team that played not in the winter, but played in the summer. And it's sort of a counter-programming thing.
Yeah.
You've got the NFL that happens, but then during the offseason, these players can continue to play. And Donald Trump had the brilliant idea, the great idea to convince them to try and go head-to-head with the NFL, one of the most powerful organizations in the world, not just in sports, but in the world. And Donald Trump's like, we're going to go head-to-head with them. And guess what? They got completely owned.
They won
got
$1 in
dominated.
court.
Yeah, they won $1 in court.
Well, the good news for Donald Trump is now he owns all 32 teams.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
that's bleak, but
Yeah.
true.
So this goes back, right? That's still.
yeah, there's blood there. There's like wounds.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like him, but again, like I'm skeptical. I'm a cynic. You know that. I've been here enough times. That you know that I'm
By the way, if you're
Join the club,
no, if you're not a cynic in this town,
Right.
you might as well go home.
Yeah, you haven't been here
exactly.
long enough, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Like-
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
It's a beautiful day outside, but
Yeah. Right.
it's not that beautiful.
But we could have a thunderstorm any moment.
Right. But I'm at the point where I think they might like it. They're getting what they want out of it, which is to shut players down.
At this point,
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
Why
Yeah.
bring it up? Why bring it up this summer? This was gone.
Yeah. Yes.
No one was
No.
protesting in the playoffs.
That was also my first reaction is suddenly, where did this come from?
Right.
I thought that had sort of gone away.
No one was still protesting during the playoffs. By week 17 last year, there were like 6 dudes protesting. This wasn't going to be an issue. Colin Kaepernick,
Yeah.
you blackballed him out of the league. You don't have to worry about him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't sort of like this, if you didn't sort of see it as your opportunity to crack down on these guys, well, just shut up.
Right. Yeah.
And instead, in the middle of June or in the middle of May, for no reason, we're talking about the national anthem again.
Again. Right. Travis Waldron here with us from Huffington Post on this Memorial Day special with lots to talk about. And one thing you and I have talked often about, Washington, D.C., our teams, if they get to the playoffs, they never move on, right?
Yeah.
And we always get almost to the threshold, except for the Redskins. I was on
Washington's football team.
Washington's football team, thank you. But the Nats, they always let us down, the Washington football team. And the Caps until this year. And now we have a team in the
finals.
In the finals. Yeah.
It's so great.
I know. What happened?
Who knows?
And by the way,
because this
it
is
looked
the
like
worst
they were going to
team.
blow it.
Yeah,
after getting ahead.
Yeah,
and
but
then
this is also this has
losing
been the
3 in a
worst
row.
team they've had in the regular season in several years, and now here we are.
Right.
That's how it works, right?
So it's
of all these expectations, years past, and now this year they get in the playoffs, and you're like, well, just glad to be here. And
But it's pretty exciting.
it's been really exciting. It's
Yeah.
been awesome, and I'm really happy Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom, like these guys have been stalwarts for the Caps. And it's a great story too, because now you're going up against
Vegas,
which
I
is
know.
just got in the league like 8 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
It's the first time it's ever happened.
Right.
That an expansion team has made it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Right.
And so
It's the first time since like 19 in the 60s. But that was,
right.
That was a year when they had like half of the league was expansion teams.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like it's Vegas.
Right.
I mean, you don't. If you think of hockey, you don't think of
I wasn't even
Vegas.
You got to take the sports out of it and remember what this is really all about.
Gambling.
Gambling. Yeah.
Well,
that's why they have a team.
I don't gamble on sports ever.
Smart.
Well,
I don't either anymore.
Okay, so
I just took one broken.
It's legal now.
Just took one. Just took one broken kneecap for me to stop.
But just to finish on this, I don't even know. I've never even been to a Caps game. But
oh man, you got to go.
But I've been to. I love hockey.
Okay.
But when for some reason, I just haven't seen the Caps. But if you Caps versus is Vegas that great a team? I mean, what's the outlook here?
Well, I mean, Vegas is hot.
Are they?
And Vegas also has Marc-Andre Fleury in goal, who is like the Caps' nemesis because he was in Pittsburgh for the last 4 years.
Man.
And so it's like, you finally got rid of Pittsburgh. And now here's your old
part of Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I thought the Caps were Tampa was a significant favorite over the Caps. And yet here we are. So
all right. So sports betting. The Supreme Court says states can do it, and good news for New Jersey, particularly, but other states as well. What's wrong with that decision? I'm not a gambler either, but why should Nevada be the only state where you can do sports gambling?
Well, the Supreme Court says it shouldn't be.
Right.
And I think they're probably they're right. I mean, this was an expected decision. Back during oral arguments in December or September, October, somewhere back there.
Yeah.
When those ended, most of the observers came away and said they thought, okay, the Supreme Court's going to throw this out. You know, the argument we have so much illegal gambling. You might as well, breaking news, prohibition doesn't work. Prohibiting vices doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens next because this could go to Congress. This could go to, I mean, we are already seeing it. Several states are moving forward. I would expect even more follow. I mean, I even saw in D.C., they talked about the council is apparently taking up a legalization here or thinking of it. And
I've also seen some expect that this could go not just to like gambling parlors, electric casinos, but actually into the ballparks themselves and
into the ballpark. I mean,
themselves.
I think it's inevitable that if gambling is legal in the United States, if sports betting is legal in the United States, it will end up in the stadiums. The teams are going to want their cut. The leagues are going to want their cut. Like this is a.
So that means
if you believe
you got the hot dog stand, the ice cream stand, and then the bookie.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah,
right? And you place
it's like it's not
you
that
place
different.
your bets right there on.
It's not that different in England. In England, if you go to soccer matches, they're not in the stadium, but there's like a Ladbrokes or a Paddy Power right across from the stadium. You go throw 4 pounds in on your team and go walk to the game. You know, you have your bet slip, your meat pie, and a beer, and now you're watching soccer.
I can see that street leading up to that stadium.
Yeah,
that's probably
right next to the BW3s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
get off the train, drop a buck in. Nats -110.
I think it could be beyond that. You know those guys that sell the beer up and down the aisles,
just taking live bets.
They could be taking live bets on every.
Well,
pitch.
And I think you're also going to see it on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The app-based gambling is, but
I mean, it already exists when you look at fantasy stuff, right?
Well, I gamble on my phone now.
That is essentially
please don't
gambling on your phone.
Please don't get the FBI here. I think they're busy enough right now. They don't have to deal with me, but
they're busy planting spies.
Yeah.
In political campaigns around the country. How much time do we have, Peter?
I got about a minute left, so we should probably start
left.
wrapping it up.
Tell me about Amy McGrath. 30 seconds.
Pretty great campaign.
Yeah.
Kentucky 6. Democrats think she has a chance to take out Andy Barr.
Won the primary.
And it's an interesting race in terms of
your home state of Kentucky?
My home state, where I went to college, in that district. And
in that district, yeah.
I think if you actually dig into her campaign, it's got some interesting potential implications for Democrats, rural, kind of suburban Democrats.
Yeah,
in these districts like this.
And this is a red district, right?
It's red. But it's kind of got a purplish past.
Uh-huh.
It was a Democratic district from 2004 to 2012.
Oh, I see.
It's been Republican since. It's flipped like 6 times since the 70s.
All right.
So it's.
And is Kentucky 6? Is that it?
6th. The 6th district.
6th district in Kentucky. Okay.
Andy Barr is the Republican.
Well, don't forget him, but keep your eye on Amy McGrath, right?
She's an interesting candidate.
Okay. Hey, thank you for coming in on Memorial Day.
Of course.
Spending the first part, at any rate, of your day off here with the Bill Press Show. And for all of you, have a great day, great Memorial Day. We'll all be back in full fashion live with all the news of the day tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Meanwhile, have a great one. From all of us, happy Memorial Day.
This is the Bill Press Show.